Hello, viewers. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Life and More. Today we have with us Mr. Anirudh Rathore, and he's a banker and he also owns two heritage properties. And he's recently come out with his book, Investing Decoded. This is the book. So, welcome, Mr. Rathore.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being part of your program.
Your pleasure is all mine, sir. You're most welcome. We'll begin with the book first.
Right.
Okay. So, what inspired you to write this book?
So it's very interesting, you know, till 2 days before I started writing the book, if anybody would have told me that, 1 year down the line you would become an author, I would have said you're
Mm,
joking. So it was a spur of the moment thing, and
mm,
I just did it. The backdrop to writing the book was during COVID time, my businesses were totally closed. You see,
mm,
like I mentioned earlier, I had a hotel business, so we were closed for 1.5 years, and I had absolutely
mhm,
nothing to do.
mm,
So there was so much energy pent up inside me. So it got
mhm.
channelized into writing the book, and
Okay.
so I converted, sort of a empty 1 year period into something fruitful for me.
Okay.
And but besides that, on a
Mhm,
more
mhm,
serious note, the thing is that I used to notice as a investor
mhm,
myself. I used to notice a
mhm,
few things. One of the things I used to notice is that there is so much information available in media. That is, on the television, on the YouTube, etc.
mhm.
But still, I used to meet a lot of people, and they used to say that they're still very much confused about the stock markets.
Like
And
me.
people across all age groups. So I thought,
Mm,
it would be a good, opportunity to try and write something which tries and makes up for this gap. And a
mm,
lot of books on the stock market, you will notice either they're very difficult to understand, or
mhm,
they've been written in a certain way where people are just sharing their experiences. They're not
mhm,
telling them what are the most important analytical tools to understand the stock market, and what an investor needs to have, as what kind of psychological approach the investor needs to have
mm,
to become a good
mm.
investor. So these two things are
Yeah.
very important, because without
Mm,
that you can never become a very good investor on your own, particularly in the stock
mm,
market. So
mm,
it was just something very spontaneous, and so as I started writing, the momentum started
mm,
building up, and
mm.
I think it took me around 100 days to write the first draft of the manuscript. And
Mhm,
after that, I spent time in just improving the manuscript. And
mm,
fortunately, I was lucky to get a good publisher also. And
mm,
things one after the other, events started unfolding.
mm. Normally, publishers are quite tough. All new authors say that publishers are quite tough to
Yeah,
crack.
yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. So
uh,
yeah, yeah.
how was
So
your
the
experience with that?
yeah. So again, I consider myself the most fortunate person in India. The reason is because I sent my manuscript to only one publisher, and they agreed to
Mhm.
publish it.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, it was not that
fortunate.
I was sending it to everybody. I had not even
Mhm,
sent it to anybody else. And
mm.
so I think I was just at the right time at the right place, and things worked out
Ah,
just perfectly for me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mr. Rathore, we would want to know like your background in as a banker. Just tell a
Right,
little bit
right.
about
Yeah, yeah.
yourself.
Of course, of course. So
Mm,
after doing my MBA, so I started
mm,
searching for banking jobs. And because I
mm,
thought, it'd be Indian economy had just opened up in the middle late 90s. And I
mm,
thought it'd be a good industry to, make a career with, because
mhm,
banking is something every country needs, and it's always going to grow. And so
mhm.
I entered banking, but initially I was in the retail banking side, right?
Okay.
So that's where my basic, retail banking, understanding took place. But
Mm,
later on, I moved on to, private banking. And that's
mhm,
when that's when the whole world of the stock market opened up to me. And
mhm,
then I built up on that. And,
mm,
so private banking I did in HDFC Bank for roughly 1 year.
mhm,
And then I moved to Citibank
mhm,
after that for 5 years.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so that's again, where, I was part of a team where we used to sell investing products to a lot of clients.
Hmm.
So, so that helped me a lot in understanding the main obstacles that clients face in understanding equity
Hmm.
markets. That gave me a
Hmm.
sense and, the pulse of the market and also the clientele. What are the things
Hmm.
which hold them back? So I put that in my
Hmm.
book also, what I learned in engaging with the clients and what I learned on my own over there. So this book is an exact story of my experience in the stock markets and the exact tools that I also use to, make
Hmm.
investments in the stock market.
Hmm. So, what are the key principles that guide you before you decide on a particular investment, putting your money
Right.
behind a particular
Yeah,
stock?
yeah. Exactly. So, Rajkumari, the main thing that what is discussed in the book is, and which I also apply as the main principle, is called value investing. So,
Hmm.
value investing has been there for over 100 years, actually. And
Hmm.
it was started by a gentleman who, wrote the first iconic book on it, was Benjamin Graham. He wrote a book
Hmm.
called Security Analysis in the early 20th century. And all value
Okay.
investors have learned from that book.
Hmm.
Everybody has
Okay.
initially.
You
And
too?
then later on, he wrote another book called The Intelligent Investor in around 1930, 1940 during, the Great Depression time. And again,
Hmm.
that's also an iconic book. So, all of us who claim that we are value investors, we actually learned our first understanding of the market through those books, right? And then
Okay.
we learn to apply those principles. They are
Hmm.
analytical principles. They're a way to look at the market,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, the most important principle in value investing is something called margin of safety, right?
Hmm.
Where when where it's a way to look at a company where it helps you to keeps a downside limitation in the stock and helps you buy at a
Hmm.
price where there is a larger upside also, right? So it's like finding disparities in the price and value in the market,
Hmm.
and then
Okay.
taking a position in that stock and then riding it to a
Hmm.
profit. Actually, it's a very simple principle, but
Hmm.
one has to try and understand it first. And once you
Hmm.
grasp it, then stock market investing becomes very easy.
Okay. So you mean that a common person, like a normal person like me who does not understand stocks,
Exactly. Yeah.
can begin doing investing in stocks
Exactly. Yeah.
without the
Yeah. Yeah.
expert help?
Absolutely.
Anybody can do
Once
that?
you understand value
Hmm.
investing, you can do entire stock
Hmm.
marketing investing on your own. You don't need an IQ of a
Hmm.
mathematical genius or an IQ of an Einstein
Hmm.
to understand all this.
Hmm.
The concepts
Hmm.
are very simple and straightforward, right? One
Hmm.
just needs to put some, focus and attention to them, and they can utilize
Hmm.
these principles in the stock market, and everybody can.
Hmm.
And there is this
Okay.
common fallacy in the stock market
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
you have to be very good in mathematics, and you have to be have a degree in finance to be able to understand the stock market. It is completely incorrect.
Okay.
Most good investors in the world, they started on their own, they understood these principles on their own, and they made the best use of it, of these opportunities.
So
So, and about
if I were to
yeah,
ask you, yeah, give me in a nutshell,
right,
say five things. Tell me five things that a normal, a layman should keep in mind or follow
right,
when he
right.
is
Number one,
entering a market. Hmm.
yeah. First of all, first thing that a layman has to understand, they should not worry too much about timing the market, right?
Okay. Hmm.
Because people are always worried that the moment they enter, they're afraid that the stock
Hmm.
market, they're going to lose some money. But that is the
Hmm.
first thing that they have to. Timing is almost impossible. Timing is, it just
Okay.
happens. If there is such an
Hmm.
opportunity when the market is down, then you enter, right? Otherwise, you have to
Okay.
just keep on, as and when you keep on having free cash, you have to keep entering the market and growing your portfolio.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
second most important thing you need to have is patience. You
Hmm.
see, without patience, you can never be a good investor. Because
Hmm.
if you notice that most people, they enter the market in the morning, they want a profit in the next 10 minutes. You see, but that's not how companies work.
Hmm.
These companies that you're buying stocks, they are going to be there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead, a lot of them.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so over 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they'll be taking, so many decisions. They'll be
Hmm.
coming out with so many new products, etc. So, you have to
Hmm.
be patient. and gradually,
Mm.
the stock price will follow their profitability, right? Then you have
Okay.
to be very disciplined also. You have
Mm-hmm.
to, it's always like there's something known as a systematic investing plan. So people invest in
Mm-hmm.
it every month. So you have to be
Mm.
disciplined towards the stock market, right?
Mm.
And also another thing is then you also have to, have the right psychological framework also, right?
Mm-hmm. Like.
A lot of people have this, loss aversion, bias, which, which is the, main, which makes them only invest in fixed deposits and bonds, right? They see stock market as
Mm.
something very risky, and risk is actually just a perception. There is risk in every investment that we do. And in
Mm.
fact, the greatest investors in the world, they consider stock market
Mm-hmm.
investing as the lowest risk, actually. That is why they've done so
Acha.
well. It is not that they are
So
taking huge risks.
that's not the general
No,
perception. General perception is that only that it is a risky place and one should not
yes,
enter.
yes, yes.
Like
I completely
our
agree.
parents also, they always went in for even now I see people who are particularly in like government jobs and all, they don't believe in stock market at all.
That's right. That's
They
right.
say
That's right.
FD
So
करा
there is
लो,
this.
recurring करा लो
Uh,
बैंक में.
uh, Bilkul, you're absolutely correct. That is the perception. But, risk also is a perception, like I'm saying. What may be risky
Mhm.
for you may not be risky for me, right?
Hmm.
So the greatest investors in the world, to everyone's surprise, they find
Hmm.
stock markets the least of risky of most asset classes,
Hmm.
and so they have
Okay.
taken advantage of that risk and that volatility that exists in the
Hmm.
stock market. They take
Hmm.
advantage of it. So that
Hmm.
is why they become good investors.
Hmm.
You see, people usually run away from volatility, but there is
Hmm.
volatility in almost everything. Whether you buy gold,
Hmm.
it's volatile. Whether you buy real estate, it is volatile.
Hmm.
Whether you buy stock market, that is also volatile. But yes, there is more volatility in the stock market. But good investors take advantage of that volatility. That
Hmm.
is what makes
And
them,
come to
good
think of
investors.
it, yeah, life itself is volatile. You don't
Yes,
know
yes.
what is
Life
going to
also
happen
is
next.
full of uncertainty and risk. Everything is full of uncertainty and risk.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so these are the main areas where, like you asked me, what are the main
Hmm.
four
Main,
five points. So these are the things
hmm.
which people have to, if they can embrace these things, then they'll do
Hmm.
very well in these markets. So patience
Okay.
is very important. Your emotional setup and the other things that I just mentioned.
Hmm. 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 ठीक है. So can you share like a notable experience where you from your investment career where you invested on certain stock and it really did well, like the best success story you have till now?
Right, right. Yeah, of course. In fact, I was fortunate. So I've been investing for a long time now, around 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So in a
Mm-hmm.
regular way. So there are a lot of stories. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
one story that mainly comes to my mind and is
Mm-hmm.
of a company called Bajaj Finance, which I've written in the book also. So
Okay.
nowadays it's one of the biggest companies in India. You've heard of it. I'm sure you must
Mm-hmm.
have heard of it also. So
Definitely.
it's a very big company now, but
Mm-hmm.
11, 12 years back,
Mm-hmm.
it was a small cap. It was a small company, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody used to ignore it. They used
Mm-hmm.
to think that it's just a fleeting story. It's not. People used to think that it's not going to do very well in the future. But however, what was happening in that company is every year they were growing their business by 30-40%, right?
Okay.
Their revenue was
Mm-hmm.
growing 30-40%, and their profit was also growing by 30-40% every year. And it
Mm.
was available at a very cheap valuation, right? It was
Okay.
so cheap that it was like getting a free platter of food on your plate. It was so cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody used to ignore it. But somehow I took a look at those numbers of the company, and I thought that they look very it looks like it'll have a very good future. And so I started
Mm-hmm.
investing in it. And you know uh, over a course of 3-4 years, it went up 40 times.
Okay.
So
That's you.
the point is, even I did not know it would go up 40 times at that time. But the thing was,
Mm-hmm.
we entered at a time when the company was available very cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the key to this. You enter a company which
mm,
is undervalued, it is cheap, and it has a
mm,
great future lying in front of you. And
mm.
that's what,
You got to
brings, yeah. And
you
then
got
you
to
have to be
study
patient
about
also.
the company also. Like before you
Yeah,
invest in a particular company, you got to study about it, no? Its
absolutely
background
correct.
and
Yes, yes,
mm,
absolutely. So they had a
mm,
great background. They were, being led by one of the finest, business families of India, which is the Bajaj Group.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
they were ticking all the boxes. And
mhm,
gradually, the market started understanding that this company has a very good
mhm,
future. And then you had lots
mhm,
of, bigger investors coming in later on. But
mhm.
by that time, it had already gone up 10, 15 times up.
Ah,
So
okay,
that's how it
okay.
works.
And
You have to get in. You have to
mm,
get in at a time when things are, a bit, undiscovered by the public.
mm,
That is
mm.
when the best result comes in the stock markets.
Maybe you also get a bit of like once you are like senior enough in in the sector, you get a
Right.
hunch also about certain brands, no? That this is going to
Yes,
do
yes.
well or
Absolutely,
that
absolutely.
also.
If you have a very good management, Rajkumari, of a
Mm,
company,
mhm,
then they tend to,
mhm,
create the right, atmosphere for the company to grow. And
mm,
if they're in the right industry also, then that
mhm,
gives it a further tailwind. And
true.
so, but there are many such opportunities. This is just one of them.
Mhm,
India is a land of
mhm,
opportunities in the stock market.
mm,
And
mm,
so it is not just this company. There are hundreds and hundreds of other
mm,
companies which have done this.
mm.
And
Okay.
so the opportunities are there all the time in
Mm,
India.
mm. And has there been like on the flip side, has there been a case where it bombed, where
Yes, yes, of
your
course.
decisions bombed?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
In fact, in the beginning of my book, I've written that the first
mm,
few investments that I made in my life, when I
mm,
was a college student, actually, that time. So
mhm,
I had borrowed some
mhm.
money from my mother. But
Okay.
the amount was very little. I was just a college student.
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
those companies I bought on hearsay. I did not do any research on my own. Just because somebody was
Okay.
telling me to buy, so I bought them. Right.
Mhm.
And they all lost 80-90% of the value.
Okay.
So
So
that
so
is
it
what
didn't
that,
it didn't deter
so
you
no, no, no. In
and
fact, that
this.
strengthened. So that is what I've written in the book. So it had an opposite effect
Mhm.
on me.
Acha.
I decided to understand there and then that what were the mistakes that I made, which made me lose so
Mm,
much money. Right. So I
mm,
started
mm.
reading all books on the stock markets after I lost all this money.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so
Okay.
then I read around 10 books on the stock markets and
Mm,
got a hang of the markets.
mm,
And
mhm,
so that helped me a lot. The initial losses actually gave me a platform
mm,
to succeed in
mm.
the stock markets.
Ah, ah. So I was coming to that next. Like, what are the common mistakes that one tends to make, and what are the
Right.
things one should avoid?
Yeah, yeah. So I think people the most common mistake that I see that people make, they are in a hurry to
Mm,
make money in the stock market. Like I
mm,
mentioned a few minutes earlier, like the moment they invest, they want returns within 10,
mm,
20 minutes or within that same day. You see, that's
mm,
not how it works. So that is
mm,
one thing that one major mistake that people do is that they're in a hurry to,
mm,
make good, quick trading gains, etc. And
mm,
secondly, what I feel is a little bit of effort has to be done to try and understand the stock market. You have to learn to educate yourself about the
mm,
stock market, which a lot of people are unwilling to do. And
mm,
obviously now, but things have changed now. There are a lot of people who are really diving deep into the stock markets and trying to understand them. But I think
mm,
people have to educate themselves also on the stock
mm,
market. That will help them become better
mm,
investors, right? And
mm,
another very important thing is,
mm,
you have to have your investments in many assets, not just the stock market also. So, for example, what we call it in our investor language, asset allocation. So, for example, you have a certain amount in the stock market, certain amount in real estate, certain amount in gold. You know, you
mm,
distribute your income in
mm,
these three, four asset classes, right? So that is
mm,
also so instead of doing just one asset class, like
Hmm.
only stock markets or only real estate or only gold. It's
Hmm.
better to be
So
in
that if
three, four
one
of them.
falls, the other three can take care of it.
Yes, yes, yes. Exactly. So if you
Hmm.
notice, always one asset is going up while the other may be dormant for some time. But then
Hmm.
when that is going down, the other one starts coming up. So, everything is
Hmm.
linked in the world. So
Hmm.
I think
So
so if they distribute their assets in three, four different options, I think investors will do very well in the long run. But another thing, like to your question, I would like to add is what happens is
hmm.
in the stock market, people keep it as the last asset.
Hmm.
Let's say if
That's
somebody has
true.
100 rupees, let's say if somebody has 100
Hmm.
rupees and they want to
Hmm.
invest in the stock market, they end up investing only 3 rupees out of 100 in the stock market.
Hmm.
So that is also
That's
wrong.
not true.
That is
Hmm.
also wrong. So,
Hmm.
now as people get more and more experience in the stock market, they need to increase their allocation to the market, right?
Hmm.
So, if they start with, let's say, 2 3% of their funds, they can take it up to 15 20 over a period of time, because
Hmm.
it is a productive asset. It will give you returns in the long run, right? If the
Hmm.
economy is growing,
Yeah.
if you're in the right country, if so they do, give you some benefits. So, again, people invest very little in the stock market. In the book, I'm
You
saying
need
keep
to.
it in the forefront, not the last asset.
Hmm.
Keep it as your,
Hmm.
number one asset rather than your last asset.
Okay. You need to give
But
respect to
do
that.
yes, yes.
You disrespect it and then expect it to do works for you. It won't.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that 2 or 3% cannot become 50%. You have to be
Yeah.
very lucky.
Yeah.
It cannot automatically become 50%. But you
Yeah.
have to get up to 15-20% for it to
Hmm.
become
Hmm.
50%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these
Yeah.
are the main three things I think where people
Hmm.
sort of falter in their approach to
Hmm.
the stock market.
Hmm.
So, they are practical things, but they do count in the long run.
Huh, they do count. True.
Yeah.
True. So, so how do you see the landscape in equity investment in our country? Like
No, our country,
the
like I
future.
mentioned, is a land of, I think the opportunities are great in the long run.
Hmm.
Currently what has happened is last 3-4 years, the stock
Hmm.
market has done very well in India,
Hmm.
done extremely well. And
Hmm.
so, now in stock market parlance, we call it valuation. Valuation of companies
Hmm.
are a bit on the upper end. So going
Hmm.
forward for the next 5, 10, 15 years, people should expect a
Hmm.
more reasonable return, right?
Okay.
Something like a 12 to 15% return year on year. That is what people should expect, based on
Hmm.
the growth of our GDP. They should
Hmm.
expect something very close to that. And
Hmm.
so that is also a decent return, 12, 15.
Hmm.
If you can get to 18-20% is excellent year on year.
Hmm.
So I think it is still very bright. And and as the per capita income of Indians keep going up, right? For example,
Hmm.
right now I think we have a per capita income of something around $2,500 to $3,000, something in that range.
Hmm.
So once
Hmm.
as a country in India, we reach the $10,000 per capita income. So our stock market,
Hmm.
our GDP will also go up 3-4 times accordingly.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that means the companies that we are investing in, a lot of them, their businesses will also grow 3 to 4 to 5 times from here.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that will give,
Hmm.
a good return to a lot of
Hmm.
investors also. So they are
Hmm.
all interlinked.
Hmm. And having a stable government at the center helps.
Oh, very much, very much. In fact, that is
Hmm.
a very, very important thing. Stability in the stock markets
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
always seen as a fantastic thing. And stock markets actually do not like uncertainty. When uncertain
Hmm.
times comes, the stock market goes down. But when stock
Yeah.
markets see stability, they sustain
Hmm.
themselves and keep going up, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
the stock market is reflecting that there should be stability going forward in the government also. That is what the prices are reflecting right now.
Hmm. So now we come to your heritage
Okay.
ventures.
Yeah.
So tell us how did you enter the heritage? Like banking has
Right.
been
Right.
your profession, and from
Yes.
that
Yes.
you
Yes.
moved to heritage properties. What
That's right.
inspired you,
That's right. No,
and
again,
how
you
did
must.
you
So
actually did that?
Rajkumar. Yeah. Yeah. So again, Rajkumari, I'm in the perfect city to be in the heritage
Mm.
hotel business. I am based in Jaipur, right?
Mm. Yeah, I
So
know.
it is one of the most, in demand tourist destinations of India, not only
Mm.
for domestic travelers but also for international
Mm.
travelers. So
Mm. Mm.
it was a no brainer for me to get into this line,
Mm. Mm.
because I'm in a state where people automatically come for tourism.
Mm.
And
Mm.
uh, while I was still in banking, and so
Mhm.
I started our hotel in a small way that time, 17, 18 years back, and gradually I built it up. And so
Mhm.
luckily, when I started with a
Mhm.
very small base that time, but it started doing very well from the very first year. And
Mm.
so I kept on, me and my family, we kept on building onto that, every year. So whatever we
Okay.
used to earn, we used to reinvest in our business. And
Okay.
over a period of time, from one, it led to another property also. And again,
Yeah.
being in the correct state
Mm.
and in the, correct industry, it helped us a lot.
Mm.
And
Do you
it's a,
mind telling us the names of these heritage properties?
yeah, yeah. So in Jaipur, we have a hotel called Dera Rawat. It's a
Okay.
Dera Rawat is the name. And
Mm.
I have another hotel. It is a heritage hotel. It's a fort actually, and it's called Fort
Okay.
Burley. It's a 365-year-old fort converted into a heritage hotel. And
Okay.
that its location is between Jaipur and Jaipur. It's in the countryside.
Acha.
Yeah. So that fort
And
was made in 1675. The fort was made in 1675.
mm.
And so it's a fantastic place, and so we've been very fortunate to we were able to do it. And
Mm.
people who come there also, they are very happy because it's an
But then
excellent location.
a 500-year-old fort
Three
must
fifty year
have
old roughly. Yeah,
350. You
yeah.
said it was made in
1675.
16.
1675.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So that
yeah.
that much old property, it must have required a lot of work also in
Yes, yes,
renovation.
absolutely. It took
Mm.
us 2 years to just to restore it before
Mm.
we opened our doors to any guests.
Mm.
So because you're absolutely correct. They require a lot of work, a lot of patience,
Mm.
and but once they are complete, they give you a lot of satisfaction also. It's
Mm.
because you're bringing back to life, heritage,
Mm.
and there can be
Mm.
no greater satisfaction in life than that.
Mm. And
And it
there
is a
too,
place.
your banking, your investing knowledge, and it came into play there also. You knew that it
Yes,
is
yes,
going to do well.
absolutely, it came into play there
Mm.
also. In fact, I've
Mm.
written my book also. That
Mhm.
one thing which I did was that once the businesses
Mm.
started, so, and I
Mhm.
mentioned it all in the book. So once the
Mhm.
business started and they started generating cash, right? So I
Mhm.
started investing the business money also into the stock market.
So one is feeding the
So
other, and
yeah,
it
so
is
it
like
started
the money is
complementing.
going
So
round in circles.
it's basically complementing each other,
The other, yeah,
And
yeah.
so initially people used to think I'm crazy, investing business money into
Mm.
the stock market.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but it's actually, I want to share. It's a little. It's quite interesting actually, but it's a very practical way to grow the balance sheet also of business. Because
Mm.
even when you're
Mm.
investing in the stock market, you're investing in businesses only, right?
Yeah,
So it's
true,
like a
true.
little bit of a diversification. Let me put it
Mm.
that way.
Mm. Mm.
So so I just did it in a bit of a different way.
Mm. So how do you manage your time now? Tell me.
No, so now things are a bit different now.
Mm-hmm.
Over time in businesses, now we have a management team also in the
Mm.
business. So they, look after a lot of my worries.
Mm.
And another very good thing that has happened in India over the years is things have become digitized,
Mm.
right? So a lot of our business has become digital also now, and
Mm.
that's made life very easy for all hoteliers, not just me.
Mm.
you
Mm.
know
Mm.
and so you have the internet, you have various OTA platforms also,
Mm.
and it helps, and it's become getting businesses more easier now compared to what it was
Mm.
15, 20 years back.
Mm.
So, and besides that, I my children are growing up, so I spend a lot of time with my children. I Whenever I have free
Mm.
time, I read a few books also.
Okay.
And
Okay. Like you said,
whenever,
okay, okay. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, and whenever I get the opportunity, I use it to do a
Hmm.
bit of traveling also.
Acha. Take it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you said that for about a year and a half during the COVID period, the business was all down. It was like
Yes,
all
yes.
at a zero level. How is
Absolutely
it
zero.
now? It has hotel
No,
industry has bounced back very
it
well.
has completely bounced back, totally bounced back. And
Hmm.
it bounced back
Hmm.
1.5 year back, from
Hmm.
the beginning of 2023. And in
Hmm.
fact, from the end of 2022, and things started changing and coming back to normal again.
Hmm.
And so everything is like normal, now. But
Hmm.
yes, this industry did face a lot of problems for 1.5 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, there's no doubt
And how
about it.
you
The whole industry.
uh,
Yeah.
and how do you foresee the future?
No, future is excellent for India. We hardly have
Hmm.
any, even domestic tourism is increasing tremendously in India, number one.
Hmm.
And secondly, if
Hmm.
you notice that we hardly have any international tourism even till now in India.
Hmm.
Even the smaller countries around us have more tourism than us, and so the only way for this industry to go up is straight up and forward.
Hmm.
I think tourism will grow 4 to 5 times in India from what it is right now in the next 10 years.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
India
How,
is becoming a very major destination.
how do you like lure foreign traveler?
No, so like I said, now since we are all digitized and the internet
Hmm.
has helped us a lot, so we are now visible throughout the world. Anybody
Hmm.
sitting in any country, if they type
Hmm.
Jaipur hotels, just for example,
Hmm.
our lot of hotels names just start popping up in front of them. Hundreds of names come
Hmm.
up, and so they
Hmm.
can visibly see the hotel from their home and make a judgment whether they would like to stay there or
Hmm.
not. 20,
Hmm.
25 years back, there wasn't much visibility for hotels,
Hmm.
particularly
Hmm.
international,
Hmm.
travelers. But now, if you're in
Hmm.
any country in the world, if you just type, the city name and, write what are the good hotels over there, there'll be a
Hmm.
list of 50, 100 hotels just coming up immediately. And
Hmm.
so that has completely changed the industry. And,
Hmm.
even small hotels like mine now have
Hmm.
visibility throughout the world.
Hmm.
So that is a huge advantage, which people did not have 2 decades back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what do we expect? What do we expect from you now? Say another book on heritage hotel, another book on banking, or another property. You taking up another property to convert it into a resort, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. No, so that's a very, very nice question, actually. I'll answer it all individually. First the business side.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
currently, for example, the business that we are running, we are just trying
Hmm.
to increase the quality of this business, right? So
Hmm.
we are not in a rush to, make another hotel or anything like that. We are mainly focusing on improving our quality of our products right now. So that is the main focus over the next 2, 3 years. And in
Hmm.
terms of writing a book, if I have something very interesting to write, I will definitely write a book then. You know, but it should be something which should be of something value, to readers. Then I will write a book. And
Hmm.
let's see with time, if there's something
Hmm.
that comes up which I think that there's a
Hmm.
gap in the market which it has
Hmm.
not been talked about. Then I will
Hmm.
definitely look into writing something.
Maybe a
But
book on how to own a heritage property and run
okay,
turn it into a hotel.
that is
Since
right.
you've done with two now.
True, true, true. Yeah, that could be an interesting topic. I should consider that
Hmm.
as one topic for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we come to the end of this session, I want to ask you,
Okay.
how do you like tell me a day in your life? How do you divide your time between different works that you do, between
Yeah,
your
yeah. So
interests and hobbies and passions as well? Uh,
right, right. So the first half of my day goes into running my business,
mm,
looking into the administrative part, etc. And then, later on during the day, if I have some meeting with somebody or have to, have some, work in the bank which I have to go and complete, in the afternoon, then I go ahead and do that. And in the evening, it
mm,
is family time. You know, spending
okay,
time with my
okay,
children, and
mm,
and once in a while, going to meet some friends or calling some friends over. You know,
mm,
and later, after dinner, I do my reading before going to sleep.
okay, okay. Do
So
you have
that's
any
how my
favorite
that
authors?
beg your pardon.
Do you have any favorite? Do you have any
No,
favorite authors?
yeah, yeah. Actually, my reading is very biased. It's mainly investing books.
Acha. So
So
you do
any
everything related to
anybody who
your
writes
work
a book on
only.
investing becomes my favorite author.
Mm, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, but I
And
must share that there are some
mm,
excellent books that I've read. Particularly in investing. Currently I'm reading a book by a very good writer called Saurabh Mukherjee. He's written a book called Diamonds in the Dust. It came out 2 years back,
mm,
but I'm just
mm,
reading it now. It's an excellent book. So I'm currently
mm,
reading that book, and then also, I what I do is I buy a lot of books beforehand, and then
acha,
gradually and slowly I start reading them.
acha.
So yeah, yeah. So gradually,
You
slowly I start reading them, and I'm also a collector
mm,
of books also. You know,
okay.
I like collecting old books, which have written the 18th, 19th century, 20th century, early 20th century, those kind of books. So
Mm,
recently I've become a collector of books also.
acha.
Yeah,
So is
yeah,
the
yeah.
what explains that?
No,
Like,
it just, what I just found it very interesting. Earlier, going to normal bookstores, you don't actually cannot find them.
mm,
But I came across some websites on the internet selling, leather-bound books, etc. And they were of
mm,
authors who had written books, and famous authors who had written books in the 19th century, 18th
mm,
century, 20th century.
mm,
Just
mm,
authors like Shakespeare, Arthur Conan Doyle, people like that. There's so many of them.
mm.
And in fact, I
So
have a lot of them right behind. I have them a lot behind me also.
do you read them or you just keep
No,
them?
no. So there are so many books which I've bought, so I've not been able to read them. So, like I
Acha.
said, I read. I'm a slow reader. I don't read
Mm,
books in a rush. So,
mm.
for a lot of people can finish books in 5, 6 days. I cannot. It takes me
No, but that those books
at
are
least a month to
people
finish
who
a
can
book.
fin but people who can finish books in 3, 4 days, those are fiction. Those are
Yeah, yeah, of
stories.
course, of course, of course. Yeah, yeah, that is there.
Uh,
Absolutely correct. But like I said,
mm,
my reading is right now skewed towards investing books.
mm, mm.
So that's why it
That
takes me
makes
a long time to read them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But I will read
I,
other books also as I'm, once I've
mm,
had my fill
mm,
of investing books,
mm,
then I will
yeah.
read all the other
And
books also. There are great books coming out all the time. There are more
yeah,
great books than you can actually read. You know,
yeah, that's true.
uh,
That's
that's
true.
right.
And you talked about traveling.
Yes, yes.
Where all have you traveled to, and what's your favorite
No,
destination?
what I always try and do in the summers. Summers is when we have a lean season, in our
Mm,
business. So what I do with my family is I've told them two things.
mm,
Once summers
mm,
come, number one, we have to see Rajasthan entirely over the years, where we live in. We need to see the state where we live in also, right? So that
mm.
we always go for a tour within Rajasthan. Then we
Okay.
try and take a short tour at another destination in India also, where we haven't been.
Mm,
And if time permits, once in a while, I mean, we try and do, do some traveling to some other nation also, right?
okay.
So,
Okay.
but so that's how we take up traveling, and so luckily we've been able to do something or the other every year. Take out some
Okay.
time for that.
And within your own state, Rajasthan, which
Yes,
place
yes.
would
So,
you recommend a traveler? Like this is the place you
in fact,
must go.
India is a country where every state has incredible, options to travel and see things. But Rajasthan is a very gifted state. You know,
Mm,
we have so many monuments, so many forts and palaces. There are
mm,
so many of them. And but of course,
mm,
you have to. Everybody, Jaipur is their number one, right? Usually from
mm,
anywhere
mm,
in India. Then the second favorite destination of people is always Udaipur in Rajasthan.
mm.
So you have to
Hey,
see
what do
Udaipur.
you? No, no, no. What
Okay,
I'm asking is, what do you suggest?
okay,
Jaipur
okay,
is
okay.
like Jaipur. Everybody goes. Jaipur is now
Yeah,
done to
yeah,
death.
yeah,
Udaipur is
yeah,
done
yeah,
to
yeah,
death.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that's a very nice question, actually. In fact, what I always try and do is go to the countryside in Rajasthan, where you have these small forts which are converted into hotels. and they are,
Hmm.
single standing forts. There is no
Hmm.
other hotel nearby for 50, 100 kilometers, and but
Hmm.
they have beautiful countryside and beautiful geography around it. And so
Hmm.
these are, so we have small areas in Rajasthan, like Shekhawati area, right, which is
Okay.
2 hours
Hmm.
away from Jaipur. You have a lot of
Hmm.
heritage hotels in that belt, where they
Hmm.
have beautiful hotels and also beautiful, wildlife around them, beautiful countryside.
Hmm.
So that I
Hmm.
recommend people to go and see, right?
Okay.
And
Hmm.
also, between Jaipur and Udaipur, we have an area called Kumbhalgarh and Ranakpur.
Hmm.
That is a beautiful
Okay.
area where there are
Hmm.
fantastic sceneries over there. There are lovely hills over there, excellent hotels, and a lot of history also.
Hmm.
So I would recommend people to go and see that area also. It's very
Hmm.
beautiful and
Okay.
gives a very peaceful and calming feeling over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
these two areas I do recommend.
Hmm. Okay. ठीक है.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rathore, thank you so much for talking to us. And I wish you all the best for all your future investments and hotels and whatever books that are coming up from your side. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.